I accidentally read my wife's group chat and wish I had. I never thought curiosity could be so dangerous, but that morning proved me wrong. It started like any other Saturday. I was sipping my coffee at the kitchen table, the sunlight streaming in through the half-open blinds, and my phone buzzed with notifications. I rarely touch my husband's phone without him knowing, out of respect and trust, but something made me glance at it while he was in the shower. I didn't mean to snoop, I swear. My thumb hovered over the Messages app, and before I could stop myself, I opened it. That's when I saw the group chat. There were 3 names at the top, people I didn't know very well, people he mentioned occasionally but never went into detail about. And there, highlighted in a string of messages, was his name alongside words I didn't expect. Words that sliced through my chest like a knife. At first, I tried to rationalize. Maybe it was harmless banter, maybe I was overreacting. But the more I read, the more my stomach churned, the more my vision narrowed. They were laughing about things I didn't understand at first, inside jokes, references to past events. But soon it became clear. They were making fun of me. Not just teasing, playful teasing like couples sometimes do, but ridiculing. My hair, my laugh, the way I bite my nails when I'm nervous, the way I sometimes overreact. And it wasn't gentle. It was sharp, deliberate, cruel, and all of it punctuated with emojis that made the sarcasm sting even more. My hands shook as I scrolled down, my coffee forgotten, my heart pounding like a drum. The more I read, the more my mind raced through every memory, every small argument, every disagreement I had ever had with him. Had he really been saying these things behind my back all this time? All the trust I had built, every moment I thought we shared, I questioned it all in an instant. Then I saw it, him participating actively, responding with laughter, egging them on. He wasn't just a passive observer, he was complicit. He was part of the conversation. And the worst part, the messages hinted at secrets, things he hadn't told me, things that involved me personally but that he and these people had treated like a joke. The walls of the kitchen seemed to close in, the morning sunlight turning harsh, glaring, as if it were exposing me in some cruel way. I felt my chest tighten, my throat constrict, and suddenly every little insecurity I had about our marriage, our communication, every argument that had ended in "you're overthinking" flashed in front of me. I wanted to throw the phone across the room, scream, run out into the street and never come back, but I couldn't. I was frozen, caught in the trap of my own discovery. I don't remember how long I sat there, staring at the screen, scrolling through messages that I wish I could unread. The chat revealed more than just jokes. It revealed attitudes, opinions, and worst of all, dismissiveness toward me. Comments about how she's too sensitive, or she overreacts, or wait until she finds out about this, followed by laughter, made my stomach sink. It wasn't just cruelty, it was betrayal. And there was a pattern to it, references to things I had shared in confidence, private moments, personal struggles. Had he shared these with them? How long had this been going on? My mind spun, my hands gripping the edge of the table as if it were the only thing keeping me tethered to reality. When he finally emerged from the shower, humming absent-mindedly, I wanted to throw the phone at him, demand answers, scream until my voice gave out. But I didn't. Instead, I set the phone down, my face neutral, my stomach twisting. He sat down across from me, smiling softly, unaware of the storm brewing inside me. "Morning," he said. "Coffee's ready if you want some." I nodded, forcing a polite smile, my mind racing through everything I had just read. I didn't trust myself to speak without trembling. I wanted to ask why, how, and when, but a voice in my head whispered, "Hold on, wait, think." And so I sipped my coffee, feeling like the world had shifted beneath me, the ground no longer solid. I didn't know if our marriage would survive this. I didn't know if I could forgive this. And most of all, I didn't know if I could look at him the same way again. I spent the day in a haze. Every text message I had ever sent, every photo, every private conversation I had shared felt compromised. I started noticing little things he had said over the past months, the jokes he made, the little digs disguised as humor, and they all took on a new meaning. I felt a gnawing ache of paranoia, betrayal, and disbelief. How could someone I loved, trusted, and shared my life with treat me like that behind my back? Yet, part of me wanted to confront him immediately, to demand the truth. Another part of me feared what I might hear, feared that this wasn't just a harmless chat, but a window into a reality I wasn't prepared for. That night, he came to bed, unaware of the storm inside me. I stared at the ceiling, the words from the chat replaying over and over, a relentless echo. I realized then that everything had changed. I couldn't unsee what I had seen, and I couldn't pretend that it hadn't happened. My trust was fractured, and the question that haunted me was simple and terrifying. Would our marriage survive the truth, or had I just discovered the thing that would finally break us? The next morning, I woke feeling heavy, almost as if the weight of the previous day's discovery had settled into my bones. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator, and I felt a strange, hollow distance from everything around me. Even the sunlight pouring through the blinds seemed filtered, softer somehow, as if the world had dimmed just for me. I kept replaying the messages in my mind, each word sharper than the last. I wondered how long it had been going on, how many times he had laughed at jokes about me behind my back, how many secrets he had shared with people I didn't even know. I couldn't help it. I needed answers. I needed to confront him. I paced the living room, gripping my mug of coffee until my knuckles turned white, trying to summon the courage to speak, to demand explanations, to tear open the truth fully and finally. When he appeared, yawning and stretching, casual as if nothing had shifted in the universe, I felt my stomach knot. "Morning," he said, with that easy smile I had once found comforting. But it no longer felt safe. I stared at him for a long moment, gathering the fragments of composure I had left. "We need to talk," I said finally, my voice low but steady, though inside I was shaking. He froze slightly, the smile faltering. "About what?" he asked casually, though I could see the small flash of unease in his eyes. "You know exactly what," I said, my tone sharper now, fueled by the lingering sting of betrayal. I told him I had seen the group chat. I watched his face change, first to confusion, then to a subtle tightening around the jaw, and finally to a mask of defensiveness I had never seen on him before. "You shouldn't have gone through my phone," he said, a note of irritation creeping in, but I barely heard him. The words I had read, the mockery, the jokes at my expense, the comments I wasn't supposed to know about, burned in my mind, drowning out everything else. Do you have any idea what it feels like to read that? To see yourself treated like a punchline to people you don't even know. To find out that the person you love, the person you trusted with your life, is complicit in laughing at you. My voice shook, but I forced it out. He ran a hand through his hair, sighing, looking everywhere but at me. "It wasn't meant to be serious," he said. "It was just banter. It doesn't mean anything." "It doesn't mean anything," I echoed, my chest tight. "Do you hear yourself?" "All of it, my insecurities, my quirks, the things I've shared with you in confidence, they're fodder for your amusement. And you expect me to believe it's meaningless." His eyes flicked to mine, and for the first time I saw hesitation, maybe even guilt, though he tried to hide it. "I didn't think it would upset you. I didn't think you'd see it." I took a deep, shuddering breath. But I did see it, and now everything is different. How am I supposed to trust you again? How am I supposed to look at you and not hear the laughter in my head? The room went silent except for the ticking of the wall clock. I could feel the air thick with tension, my anger bubbling over, but beneath it all was a deep, aching sadness. The person I loved, the person I had shared my life with, had been complicit in making me feel small, unworthy, and laughed at, and I couldn't just unsee it. I wanted to scream, to run, to leave, but I also wanted answers. I needed to know why, and if there was any part of him that hadn't completely betrayed me. He finally spoke, his voice quieter, almost pleading. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I thought it was harmless. I didn't think it mattered. I didn't think you'd find out." "Well, I did find out," I said, trying to keep my voice from breaking. "And it does matter. Every word matters. Every laugh, every emoji, every inside joke at my expense matters. It matters more than you know." I felt tears prick my eyes, hot and angry, and I blinked them back, not wanting him to see me like this. I wasn't just angry. I was wounded in a way that went beyond reason, beyond logic. This wasn't just about the messages. It was about the trust I had given him, about the safety I had felt in our marriage, about the foundation of honesty that now felt like it had been ripped out from under me. He reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "Don't touch me," I said sharply. "Not until I know the truth. Not until I know why you would ever treat me like this, why you would betray me like this, even in what you called harmless fun." He hesitated, then lowered his hand, his eyes avoiding mine. I could see the conflict in his expression, the part of him that wanted to explain, to justify, to minimize. But it wasn't enough. Nothing he could say right now would erase the images, the words, the sting of betrayal. I felt like I was walking through a storm inside my own head, the anger and hurt twisting together until I wasn't sure where one ended and the other began. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every message, every word, every laugh. The room was dark, but the glow of the streetlight outside made shadows dance across the walls. I kept thinking about all the times I had trusted him completely, all the moments I had shared, and now it all felt fragile, vulnerable, and maybe even unsafe. The truth was unbearable. The person I had loved, the person I had believed would never intentionally hurt me, had done exactly that. And while part of me wanted to confront him again, to demand explanations, to scream until my throat gave out, another part of me was terrified. Terrified of what the answers might reveal, terrified of the depth of the betrayal, terrified of what it might mean for our marriage, for my life, for the way I had always understood love and trust. I lay there, wide awake, wishing I could unread those messages, wishing I could turn back time to when curiosity hadn't led me down this path. But I couldn't. The knowledge was now mine, and it was poisonous. It infected everything, every thought, every memory, every hope I had for the future. I realized that the coming days would be critical. I would have to decide if this was forgivable, if trust could be rebuilt, if love could survive such deliberate betrayal. And deep down, I knew one thing for certain: nothing would ever feel the same again. The morning after our confrontation, the house felt unbearably quiet. He moved around as if nothing had happened, pouring coffee, making small talk, but I couldn't bring myself to answer. Each word out of his mouth felt like it belonged to someone else, someone I didn't know anymore. I watched him from across the kitchen, my mind spinning, trying to piece together why he had done it, why he had shared details of my life, my quirks, my insecurities, with a group of people who clearly didn't respect me. I needed answers. Not excuses, not vague apologies, not deflections. I needed the truth. When he finally noticed me sitting silently, staring at him with a mixture of disbelief and rage, he hesitated. His expression softened just a fraction. "I know you're hurt," he said quietly, almost a whisper. "And I don't blame you for being angry." I exhaled sharply, feeling some of the tension inside me crack slightly. "Hurt, angry, you think that's enough to describe it?" I asked, my voice trembling despite my attempts to stay steady. "Do you even understand what it feels like to realize you've been laughed at, mocked, and shared in private jokes about your most personal insecurities?" He paused, looking down at his hands. I didn't think of it like that. It wasn't meant to hurt you," he said, the familiar defensive tone returning, though softer this time. I shook my head, bitter laughter escaping me. "Not meant to hurt me, really." Then why, for weeks, did I feel the subtle tension when I asked about your friends? Why did you hide your phone, laugh a little too nervously when I walked by, and act like everything was normal when clearly it was? He didn't answer immediately. I could see him struggling, weighing words, trying to navigate this storm he had created. I thought it was harmless," he admitted finally. "I thought it was just joking around, nothing serious, nothing that would hurt you. I didn't think you'd find out." I stared at him, disbelief and fury mixing with an aching sadness. "You didn't think I'd find out. Do you know what that makes me feel? Invisible, small, betrayed. You treated me like I didn't matter, like I was just the butt of your little private jokes. And the worst part is you knew it, you were aware. And yet you went along with it." He flinched at my words, but said nothing. I took a shaky breath, trying to calm the storm inside me, trying to regain some semblance of control. "I need to know why, not because I want excuses, but because if I don't understand, I can't decide if this is forgivable, if our marriage can survive this, if I can ever trust you again." His eyes met mine, filled with a mix of guilt and fear. I guess I wanted validation," he said quietly, voice almost breaking. "I didn't feel enough, I guess. I wanted to be admired, to be seen as funny, clever. And in that chat, I felt like I belonged. I was trying to be part of something, and I didn't think about how it would hurt you. I wasn't thinking about you at all, really." The words hit me like a slap. Not the truth I wanted, not a justification I could digest, but a confession that cut even deeper. He had been seeking attention elsewhere, laughing at my expense, and I had been blind to it. I felt tears well up, hot and heavy, but I refused to let them fall. I couldn't give him that. Not yet. "So your sense of belonging was more important than respecting me, more important than protecting my trust?" I asked, my voice trembling but firm. He swallowed hard. "I didn't think of it like that. I was selfish. I see that now. And I'm so sorry. I don't want to lose you. I want to make it right if I can." I shook my head, exhaling sharply, the betrayal still raw. "You don't get to just apologize and hope I'll forgive you. Trust isn't rebuilt that easily, and right now. I don't even know if I can look at you the same way. Every smile, every joke, Every affectionate gesture I've shared with you, now I have to question if it was genuine or if it was just part of the act, part of your image for other people to enjoy. He looked stricken, eyes wide with the weight of his mistakes. I swear it was never an act. I do love you. I meant every word with you. I made a horrible mistake. I let myself be part of something cruel. And I don't know how to fix it, but I will try. I felt a swirl of emotions, anger, grief, disbelief, but also the love that had brought us together in the first place. I realized that this was not going to be resolved in an hour, a day, or even a week. The trust that had once been so solid had fractured, and while I wanted to repair it, I didn't know how. I needed time, space, and clarity. I need some time, I said finally, my voice soft but unwavering. I need to process this. I can't just pretend it didn't happen. I can't just forgive blindly. I need to understand how deep this goes and whether you can truly see the damage you've caused. He nodded slowly, guilt written across his face. Take all the time you need, he said. I'll do whatever it takes to make it right. I'll prove it if you let me. I didn't respond. I simply got up, moving to the bedroom, the weight of heartbreak heavy on my shoulders. As I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, the words of the group chat replayed in my mind, sharper than ever. I realized that life as I knew it had shifted. My marriage, the trust I had taken for granted, and the innocence of our shared past were now fractured. I didn't know if I could fully heal, didn't know if I could ever stop hearing the laughter at my expense in my mind. But one thing was certain. I could no longer ignore the truth. I had seen it. I had felt it. And now I had to decide whether I could survive it, and whether our love, so deeply entwined with betrayal, could endure. The next few days were torture. Every glance he gave me felt loaded. Every word he spoke seemed rehearsed, like he was tiptoeing around the minefield he had created. I wanted to scream at him, demand every single detail about the chat, about the people involved, about the private things he had shared, but I held back. I needed clarity first. A way to understand how deep the betrayal ran before I confronted him again. Curiosity gnawed at me, but fear was stronger. I didn't want to open another door only to find myself completely shattered. Late one evening, while he was asleep, I found myself picking up his phone again. I told myself it was to gather information, to understand fully, to make a rational decision about our future. But the moment I unlocked it, the familiar group chat appeared, notifications glowing softly against the dark screen. My hands shook as I opened it, the messages scrolling endlessly. I saw new threads I hadn't read before, images, videos, and comments about things I didn't even realize he had shared. The cruelty wasn't gone. If anything, it felt sharper now, knowing that it had extended beyond what I initially saw. My stomach twisted, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. I wanted to close it, throw the phone, erase it from my memory, but I couldn't stop reading. I discovered references to my work, to our friends, to family members, all shared with a casualness that left me trembling. Each message chipped away at the foundation of trust I had built over years. Some of the jokes were minor, almost benign in isolation, but when stacked together, they painted a picture of someone who didn't respect me, someone who had been actively participating in a narrative where I was the punchline. The realization made my throat dry, my hands cold. I felt the bile rise, the mix of anger and grief twisting in my chest. And then I saw the one message that made my blood run cold. It wasn't just jokes or teasing this time. It was a detailed story he had shared, a private conversation I had trusted him with, rewritten for the amusement of this group. Names altered, but the essence clear. Every personal fear, insecurity, and confession I had shared in moments of vulnerability had been commodified, turned into entertainment. My world tilted. I wanted to scream, to wake him and demand he explain himself, but I also felt paralyzed. I didn't know if I could handle his response, if I could face him without breaking apart. The next morning, I confronted him, unable to hold it in any longer. I laid out what I had found, my voice trembling but unwavering. This isn't harmless anymore, I said, pointing at the phone. This is you sharing my life, my fears, my vulnerabilities as entertainment for other people. Do you understand what that means? Do you understand what you've done to me? He looked at me, eyes wide, guilt and panic flashing across his face. I made a mistake. I thought it was funny, harmless. I didn't mean to hurt you like this, he said, but the words sounded hollow. I shook my head, tears stinging my eyes. It wasn't a mistake. You knew exactly what you were doing. You chose to laugh at me. You chose to share me. And now I don't know if I can trust anything you say or do again. Every word, every gesture, it's all tainted. and I don't know if I can ever forgive it. He reached for me, desperate, but I recoiled. Don't touch me. Not until you understand the full scope of what this means, I said. The tension between us was suffocating, thick and almost tangible. I wanted answers, I wanted accountability, and I wanted him to feel the weight of his actions fully. I realized then that this wasn't something that could be resolved with a simple apology. The trust that had once been the bedrock of our relationship had fractured. And while I still loved him, still cared for the life we had built, I understood that love alone wouldn't fix this. It would take honesty, transparency, and a willingness to face the consequences of his betrayal fully. Over the next few days, I started observing him more closely, looking for patterns, for signs that he truly understood the gravity of his actions. Some moments suggested remorse, others suggested he hadn't fully grasped it. I made a decision. I couldn't move forward blindly. I needed to know everything, every detail, every interaction, every lie or omission. And if he wasn't willing to provide that, then I had to consider that this marriage, the life I had envisioned, might no longer be tenable. That night, I lay in bed, unable to sleep. I thought about the years we had shared, the love, the trust, the moments of joy, and how they now felt stained by this betrayal. I felt a mixture of sorrow, anger, and fear for the future. I knew that confronting him, demanding the truth, and forcing transparency would change everything. I didn't know if it would save us or destroy us. But I did know one thing. I could no longer ignore what I had seen. I could no longer pretend the laughter, the jokes, and the betrayal hadn't happened. And with that realization came a chilling clarity. The next steps I took would define the rest of our lives, either as a couple who survived the deepest fracture of trust imaginable, or as two people whose love had been irrevocably shattered by the casual cruelty of words behind a screen. The next morning, I woke with a knot in my stomach that refused to loosen. Every sound in the house, the clink of dishes, the hum of the refrigerator, the distant rumble of traffic outside, felt like a reminder of what I had discovered. I could no longer see our life the same way. Even the little things he did, once comforting, now felt loaded with suspicion. Did he say that casually, or was it for someone else? Did he smile because he meant it, or because he was rehearsing for the group chat? I couldn't stop the questions from racing through my mind. By mid-morning, I realized I couldn't endure the uncertainty any longer. I needed to confront him fully, to force honesty, to see if he could face the consequences of what he had done. I found him in the living room, scrolling through his phone with a distracted expression. When he looked up and saw me, I could tell he sensed the storm coming. I swallowed the lump in my throat and spoke, my voice calm but cold. We need to talk. Right now. No distractions, no interruptions. I need the truth. Everything. He hesitated, glancing down at his phone as if it might provide a way out, but then he set it aside. Okay, he said quietly. I'll tell you everything. I felt a flicker of hope, but I couldn't let myself get carried away. I needed details, specifics, names, times, messages, motives, everything. Start from the beginning, I said. I want to know who's in that chat, how long it's been going on, everything that's been said about me, and why you thought it was okay to participate. His hands fidgeted in his lap, and I could see the discomfort growing with each passing second. It started last year, he began. I didn't think it was serious at first, just joking around, sharing funny things with people I thought I could trust. I didn't think you'd ever see it, and I didn't think it would hurt you like this. I let out a short, bitter laugh. You didn't think it would hurt me. Do you hear yourself? Everything about me, the things I trusted you with, my fears, my quirks, my personality, was fair game for your entertainment. And now you expect me to just accept that it wasn't serious, that it's harmless. He flinched but pressed on. I know it sounds awful, and I know it was wrong. I can see that now. I got caught up in wanting to belong, to be funny, to be admired by them. I didn't think about you. I didn't think about your feelings. I was selfish. I stared at him, feeling a mixture of anger and incredulity. Selfish, that's the word you choose. You betrayed my trust, laughed at my insecurities, shared private moments of my life, and you call it selfish. His face went pale. I know it's more than selfish. I was cruel, and I didn't even realize it until now. I shook my head, tears threatening to spill. Cruel, that doesn't even cover it. You were deceitful. You were manipulative. You took what was sacred between us and turned it into a joke for other people. You turned me into someone I can't recognize in the mirror because now I see how I was perceived behind my back. Do you understand that? His eyes glistened, and I saw the flicker of genuine remorse. I do, he whispered. I've never felt worse in my life. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know if I can, but I swear I never meant to hurt you like this. I closed my eyes, taking a deep, shuddering breath. I wanted to believe him, wanted to cling to the love we had shared, but the reality was harsher. Trust once broken doesn't rebuild itself overnight. It takes transparency, effort, and time, things I wasn't sure we had. You need to understand something, I said finally, my voice steady but trembling underneath. This isn't just about apologizing. It's about taking responsibility, about showing me that you truly grasp the damage you've done. Until I see that, I can't move forward. I can't be in the same room with you and pretend everything is okay. He nodded slowly, swallowing hard. I understand. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll answer any questions, show you everything, be completely honest. Please just don't give up on me yet. I wanted to believe him, but the betrayal had cut too deep for blind trust. I won't give up easily, I said, but you need to prove it, and I need time to see if what you're saying matches what you've done. Over the next several days, I watched him closely, observing not just his words but his actions. I asked questions about messages, interactions, and intentions, and demanded complete honesty. Each answer revealed a mix of remorse, confusion, and lingering defensiveness. I realized that while he had been part of something cruel, he wasn't entirely malicious. He was human, flawed, and deeply misguided. But that didn't erase the hurt. I found myself oscillating between love and anger, empathy and disbelief. One evening, he sat down next to me on the couch, his hands trembling slightly. I want to make this right, he said softly. I know I can't undo the past, but I want to try. I want to rebuild the trust I shattered. I looked at him, my chest tight. Do you understand how long that will take? How much it will cost us emotionally? How much I've already suffered thinking you didn't care? He nodded solemnly. I do, and I'm ready. I'll do anything every day to prove I mean it. I know it won't be easy, but I want our marriage to survive this if you let me. I exhaled slowly, tears sliding down my cheeks, a mix of grief and relief. This was the turning point. He had admitted, he had confessed, he had faced the consequences of his actions. The rest was up to me. I realized then that while love alone couldn't fix everything, it could serve as the foundation for rebuilding what was broken. If both of us were willing to confront the pain, face the betrayal, and commit to honesty, transparency, and healing. And in that moment, I decided I would try. Not blindly, not naively, but deliberately, cautiously, and with my eyes wide open, aware of the fragility of the trust we had shattered. Because if our marriage could survive this, it would be stronger, more honest, and more resilient than it had ever been before. But I also knew, deep down, that the path forward would be long, painful, and fraught with doubt, and that every step I took would test my heart, my mind, and my willingness to forgive. The following days were tense, a precarious dance between us. Every interaction felt like walking on a tightrope. I wanted to believe him, wanted to cling to the glimpses of remorse and honesty I had seen, but the shadow of the group chat lingered, dark and heavy over every moment. I noticed the subtle things, the way he kept his phone on the counter now, the way he avoided private messages when I was nearby, the quiet tension in his voice whenever the conversation touched anything personal. Part of me wanted to ask him again, to dig even deeper, but another part of me feared that each revelation would hurt more than I could bear. I spent hours replaying our conversations, analyzing his expressions, the tone of his voice, the pauses between words. I realized just how much we had relied on assumptions in our marriage, how much I had taken trust for granted, and how fragile it really was. One evening, I decided I couldn't carry this alone. I reached out to my sister, someone I trusted completely, someone who had seen both the best and worst sides of our relationship. I need advice, I said over the phone, my voice shaking slightly. I don't know what to do. I found something horrible, and I confronted him and he confessed, but I don't know if I can ever trust him again. My sister's voice was calm but firm. You have every right to feel betrayed. Trust isn't rebuilt overnight. You need to decide what's more important, healing your marriage or protecting yourself. You can't do both at once, but you can take steps to understand whether it's salvageable. Her words were practical, grounding me in a way I hadn't felt since the initial discovery. I realized she was right. I had been caught in the whirlwind of emotion, reacting moment to moment without a plan. I needed strategy, clarity, and boundaries. Over the next few days, I began setting those boundaries. I made it clear that full transparency was required. No more private messages, no more secrets, complete honesty about his online interactions and friendships. I also needed time alone to process, to sort through my feelings without the pressure of his presence. He agreed, willing to comply, and I could see that he truly understood the severity of the situation. But even with these measures in place, doubt lingered. I couldn't erase the image of those messages, the sound of the laughter, the way he had participated in mocking me. Every time I saw him smile, a part of me flinched, wondering if it was genuine or just another layer of the act I had uncovered. Then came the day he suggested we involve a counselor. Maybe talking to someone professional can help us navigate this, he said quietly. We can't just patch it together on our own. I considered it carefully. Part of me wanted to refuse, to let the betrayal fester until I either forgave him or walked away. But another part realized that without guidance, we were navigating a minefield blindfolded. I agreed. The first session was surreal. Sitting in that room, facing a stranger while recounting the details of our private life, felt exposing and humiliating. But it was necessary. For the first time, I was able to articulate the depth of my hurt, the sense of betrayal, the loss of trust. My husband, sitting across from me, listened intently, rarely speaking, his guilt and remorse evident in every posture, every glance. The counselor guided us gently but firmly, helping us untangle the web of emotions and behaviors that had led to this rupture. I realized that this wasn't just about the group chat. It was about communication, boundaries, self-esteem, and the subtle erosion of respect over time. By the end of the session, I felt a strange combination of exhaustion and relief. Exhaustion from reliving the betrayal, from exposing my deepest vulnerabilities. Relief from finally voicing them, from having someone mediate the pain, from knowing that my feelings were valid and being acknowledged. Over the next few weeks, we continued therapy, each session a mixture of revelations, apologies, difficult questions, and tentative steps toward rebuilding. I noticed small but meaningful changes. He no longer joked about private matters. He was more conscious of my comfort. He willingly shared his online activity and friends without being asked. And slowly, I started to feel a tentative trust emerging, fragile but present. But the road was far from smooth. I had nightmares, replaying the messages, imagining new betrayals, questioning every interaction. There were moments when I snapped at him, moments when I felt completely consumed by anger, moments when I wondered if any of the love we had shared was real. Yet, there were also moments of tenderness, small gestures of sincerity, unexpected kindness, and glimpses of the man I had once trusted and loved. Those moments reminded me that the betrayal didn't define him entirely, and perhaps, with effort and honesty, it didn't have to define our marriage either. One evening, after a particularly intense therapy session, I sat with him on the porch, the cool night air brushing against my face. This isn't over, I said softly. The trust is gone and it will take time to rebuild, but I'm willing to try carefully, cautiously, but I'm willing. He reached for my hand, and this time I didn't pull away. Thank you, he whispered. I'll do everything I can to earn it back. Every day, every moment, I'll show you that I'm committed. That I see the pain I've caused, and I won't let it happen again. I nodded, feeling a cautious spark of hope. I knew that forgiveness would be a process, that healing would be long and difficult, and that every day would present new challenges. But for the first time since the discovery, I felt the possibility of moving forward. Not blindly, not naively, but deliberately aware of the fractures, determined to navigate them with honesty, transparency, and care. And as we sat together, hands entwined under the night sky, I realized that survival wasn't guaranteed, but the effort, the commitment, and the willingness to face the pain could give us a chance. A fragile, tentative chance, but a chance nonetheless. And sometimes that had to be enough. Weeks passed, and life felt like a fragile balancing act. Some days the house felt almost normal, filled with laughter, shared meals, and small, tentative gestures of intimacy. Other days, the shadow of the group chat loomed over us, twisting the simplest interactions with doubt and suspicion. Every message, every smile, every glance was now filtered through the lens of betrayal. I found myself scrutinizing him, not because I didn't want to forgive, but because I couldn't allow myself to be hurt again without understanding the risks. Then one evening, something unexpected happened. One of his old friends reached out to me, asking if I had seen the messages, hinting at things that hadn't even been in the chat I had read. My stomach sank, panic and fury rising in equal measure. Was this a trap? Had he shared more than I knew? Or was someone else trying to interfere to widen the fracture in our marriage? I confronted him immediately. Why are they contacting me? Did you tell them about me? About our private life? My voice trembled, my hands gripping the countertop so tightly I thought I might leave marks in the wood. He looked startled, then defensive. No, I swear I didn't say anything. I don't know why they'd be contacting you. I haven't told anyone anything new. I searched his eyes, trying to read sincerity, but the doubt gnawed at me. I wanted to believe him, but the memory of betrayal made trust difficult. I need to see everything, I said. All your messages, every chat, every group. I can't go through this blind anymore. If we're going to survive, I need to know there's nothing left that could hurt me. He hesitated, then nodded, taking a deep breath. Okay, I'll show you everything. You have a right to see it. I want to prove that I'm serious about this. That night, we went through his phone together. Every chat, every message, every photo. It was painful, exhausting, and sometimes humiliating. I discovered threads I hadn't known existed, but to my relief, nothing else as cruel as what I had already seen. It was as if he had learned his lesson, or perhaps he had always been more careful with some things than others. The relief was tempered by lingering anger, but at least the unknowns were gone. With every conversation, I felt myself rebuilding tiny pieces of trust. He answered every question honestly, without hesitation, without defensiveness. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, we could move forward. But the path was still rocky. During therapy, we confronted patterns that had led to the betrayal, his need for validation, his desire to belong, and my own blind spots in trusting without boundaries. It was grueling, often leaving me emotionally drained, but it was necessary. One night, after a particularly difficult session, he held me close and whispered, "I don't deserve you, but I'll spend every day trying to prove that I'm worthy." I felt tears slip down my cheeks, a mixture of relief, sorrow, and cautious optimism. I realized then that survival wasn't about forgetting or pretending nothing had happened. It was about acknowledging the betrayal, facing the pain, and actively choosing to rebuild brick by fragile brick. Slowly, over the next weeks and months, the air between us began to change. The small gestures, making coffee for me in the morning, leaving notes of apology and love, engaging in open conversations, built a foundation that was careful but real. The laughter returned, hesitant at first, but growing stronger, richer, and more genuine. I noticed him listening more, considering my feelings before acting, seeking validation from me instead of others. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. I also learned something crucial about myself: the strength to confront, to demand honesty, to set boundaries, and to forgive cautiously. I realized that love wasn't just about giving. It was about knowing your own worth, your own limits, and being willing to fight for a relationship while protecting your heart. And finally, one evening, as we sat together in the quiet of the living room, I allowed myself a tentative smile. "We're not perfect," I said softly, "but maybe we're learning how to be better." He nodded, eyes glistening. "We are, and I'll never take that for granted again." I leaned against him, feeling the weight of the months lift just slightly, a cautious hope blooming in the cracks where hurt had once resided. It wouldn't be easy. The road ahead was long, fraught with the echoes of betrayal and the challenge of rebuilding trust. But for the first time in months, I believed that love, careful, conscious, and honest love, might be enough to carry us forward. That night, I slept with a fragile sense of peace, knowing that survival was possible, and that sometimes the hardest trials could forge a love stronger than it had ever been before. Months had passed since the first night I stumbled upon the group chat, the night my life had tilted into chaos. The days and nights that followed had been a blur of anger, grief, confrontation, and therapy. I had learned to navigate a landscape littered with emotional mines, where each word, each glance, each interaction had to be measured carefully. But now, as I sat on the porch, the cool evening air brushing against my face, I felt a sense of clarity I hadn't experienced in months. The tension that had once been suffocating had begun to dissipate, replaced with a cautious equilibrium. My husband joined me, carrying 2 mugs of tea. He handed one to me with a small smile, one that no longer carried the weight of hidden jokes or secret amusement at my expense. I accepted it, the warmth of the tea grounding me as I took a slow sip. "I've been thinking a lot," I said quietly, breaking the silence. "About everything, about us, about what happened and what I've learned about myself." He nodded, eyes fixed on me, attentive, patient. "I've been thinking too," he replied softly. "I know I've done terrible things and I can't take back the past, but I want to do better every day if you let me." I considered his words carefully. The past couldn't be erased. The betrayal, the humiliation, the stolen moments of trust, they were all still there, etched into memory. but I realized that survival wasn't about erasing the past. It was about building something stronger, something resilient from the fragments left behind. I know it won't be perfect, I said. There will be days when the hurt comes rushing back, when doubt sneaks in. But I want to try, carefully, slowly, but I want to try. He reached out, taking my hand in his, and I didn't pull away. I'll spend every moment proving that you can trust me again, he said. I know it won't be easy. I know it will take time. But I want to be the man you believed I could be, the man worthy of your trust, your love, your life. A wave of emotion washed over me, grief for what had been lost, relief that honesty had finally emerged, and the fragile hope that love, carefully nurtured, could survive even the deepest betrayal. Over the next weeks, our life began to stabilize. Therapy continued, both jointly and individually. I learned to set boundaries without resentment, to communicate my feelings without fear, to rebuild trust one step at a time. My husband learned to listen, to act with mindfulness, to put my feelings before his need for validation from others. And slowly, hesitantly, laughter returned. It was tentative at first, small smiles, shared glances, private jokes rebuilt from scratch, anchored in honesty rather than secrecy. One evening, as we shared a quiet dinner, I caught myself laughing at something trivial he said. I realized I hadn't felt that free, that unguarded in months. And in that moment, I understood that survival wasn't about forgetting or pretending. It was about facing the pain, acknowledging the betrayal, and choosing to rebuild despite it. I looked at him across the table, really looked at him, and saw not the man who had shattered my trust, but the man striving to repair it every day with his actions, his honesty, and his commitment. And I realized that love, even tested, even fractured, could endure if both people were willing to face the darkest parts of themselves and of their relationship. Weeks turned into months, and with every passing day, the wound left by the betrayal began to scar. The memory of the group chat never fully disappeared, but it became a marker of growth rather than a source of constant pain. I learned the importance of boundaries, transparency, and self-respect. He learned the depth of the consequences of his actions and the value of unwavering honesty. And together, we learned that survival wasn't about perfection, but about resilience, accountability, and the willingness to rebuild. One quiet night, I sat with him under the stars, our hands entwined. I never thought we could get here, I whispered. I didn't know if we'd survive the betrayal, the lies, the humiliation. He squeezed my hand gently. Neither did I, but we did, and we'll keep surviving. Together, I leaned against him, feeling the weight of the past months settle around us like a cloak that had been heavy but now was manageable. The love we shared was not the same as it had been. It was deeper, more deliberate, more conscious. But it was real, and it was ours. And in that realization, I found peace. Survival was possible, not because the betrayal had been forgotten, but because it had been faced, acknowledged, and used as a foundation for growth. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I believed that we could endure anything, as long as honesty, accountability, and love guided us forward. The night was quiet, the air still, and I felt a fragile, cautious hope blooming in my chest. We had faced the worst of ourselves and each other, and yet we were still here, together,